Oh, we got another epilogue. After submitting my final assignment of the semester, I shut the lid of my laptop and breathed a sigh of relief. In all fairness, I'll be more than a little surprised if it gets above a pass. Caffeine-fueled all-nighters seem to be my specialty lately. Oh well, I can worry about the state of my grades later. I've got more important things to do today. But first I need a bloody wash. I fetch a towel from my closet and head to the bathroom. I'm assuming we used the music room maybe, or we completely rearranged our room or something. As I get washed, I think of my plans for today. I'm going to be paying Natsuki a little visit before going to see Monika. It's been a good few months since I last saw her. Today marks 2 years since she passed. I take a deep breath through parted lips. It's unreal to think it's been that long already. Again, it feels like a lifetime has passed by. In those 2 years, I wouldn't say I've gotten over it. Hell, I wouldn't say I've moved on completely. But it's progressively getting easier to cope with what happened. I eventually turn the shower off, step out, and dry myself. I then wrap my towel around me and head back to my room. Immediately going back to my closet, I pick out a pair of jeans, a shirt, some pants, and a fresh pair of socks. After getting dressed, I stretch and yawn. I should probably make myself something to drink. Rubbing the excess sleep out of my eyes as I make my way to the coffee machine, I try to remember how exactly to use it. I'm assuming we might be in our own house now and it just has the same bathroom. Sirius told me enough times by now, it'll settle in eventually. After racking my brain for a bit, I start to remember and get to work. As I fumble around with the coffee capsules, I hear faint footsteps coming down the hall. Either someone caught the scent of coffee or I've been making way more noise than I thought. It could be both, who knows? Oh. I turn around with a tired smile across my lips. Morning, Saya. Morning. She returns my smile. I gesture towards the coffee machine. You want one? Ooh, I'd love one. All right. Just make yourself comfy and I'll whip you one up. She then sits down at the table, awaiting her drink. As I'm prepping everything, I decide to start some conversation with her. You sleep well last night? Yep, but it looks like someone was in a rush this morning. I roll my eyes and smirk as I finish up Sayori's coffee. I sigh jokingly as I walk up to her and set mug in front of her. Said the mug. Come on, I managed to get everything in on time. Well, maybe with a few typos, but still. She laughs tiredly. Wonder how many ways you spelled definitely this time. I laugh a little louder and shake my head. Knowing my luck, probably more times than I could ever admit to Yuri. Poor girl would probably have a bloody heart attack. Probably, yeah. I take a seat in front of Sayori as we sip our drinks in silence. I practically chug mine before opening my mouth again. You got any plans today? Sayori ponders for a moment, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup. Well, I've got a job interview in She glances around the clock, trying to figure out the time. It's at 1 p.m., so I've got a few hours to go. Oh, I've also got dinner with Rio later tonight. I crack a smile and chuckle softly. Honestly, I'm really glad you two get on so well. So, Sayori, when do I have to start calling you Mrs. Marufuji? Sayori's cheeks turn scarlet as she bursts into laughter. Give it a few years and then maybe. Just maybe. My heart goes all warm and fuzzy. Sayori rests her hand on my shoulder. I'd ask if you've got any plans, but I already know what you're on about doing. What? I wasn't born yesterday, you know. I'm on what day it is today, Jasmine. I take a deep breath and nod. Yeah. 2 years already. Sayori's face drops as I sigh. I know I'm not as bad as I used to be, but I still miss her, you know. I miss her too, Jasmine. But I think you put it best. She might not physically be here with us anymore, but she's still in our hearts. I smiled warmly. She remembered what I said. Things I need a reminder of that. It's all right. Nodding at Sayori, I stand up from my seat and start to walk out the kitchen. Before leaving, though, I stop for a moment. Hey, Sayori? I turn to Sayori and twiddle my thumbs a little bit. I know it's definitely a little tired to ask this by now, but you want a hug? She hops off her chair and holds her arms up. I smile sheepishly and nod. Please. Sarah practically bounces up to me and embraces me, wearing a warm smile on her face. I can't thank her enough for sticking with me for this long. In all honesty, the road to recover probably would have been a lot less bearable without her. Eventually, Sayori releases me and takes a step back. You'll be okay, Jasmine. I promise. Thank you. I then go to leave once again before stopping once more. I just gotta get something from my room real quick and then I'll be off. All right. I quickly rush to my room to grab a few things. My wallet, phone, earphones, and my jacket. My eyes then fall into a folded up piece of paper resting upon my desk. Something I wrote from Monika. Without hesitation, I pick up the paper and slide it into my jacket pocket. I then go to the front door and get my trainers on. After one last goodbye and wish of good luck to Sayori, I unlock the door and set off on my way. It's nice that they live together. As soon as I step outside, I pull both my phone and earphones from my pocket. I plug my earphones in and start to scroll through my music library. There's a myriad of music I could be listening to for my walk to the bus stop, but while scrolling through the assorted abundance of electronic music, rock, and early 2000s cheese, I finally find what I'm looking for. Press play. There it is. Yeah, I just wanted to say, there's the track that Monika and I had started a good few months before she passed. I still remember that day well, especially how enthusiastic she was. It took a lot of willpower to do so, but I was able to finish it off. I reckon Monika would be quite happy with how it turned out. After a couple of deep breaths, I internally go over my plans. Meet up with Natsuki first, then visit Monika. I decided to send Natsuki a quick text, asking if she's still up for seeing me. Hey Nat, are we still good to meet up? I then slide my phone into my pocket and start my walk. After making it to the bus stop, I quickly checked the timetable. Next one should be in here in about 5 minutes. Guess I'll just sit here and wait. A little bit of time passes before my phone buzzes. I take my phone from my pocket, bring it up to my face, and then turn the screen on. As I thought, it was a reply from Nat. Yeah, we still good. See you soon. I quickly text back before sliding my phone back into paid hiding. Not long after, the bus finally arrives. I get on, buy my ticket, and then take a seat. I have to find that song online because it did sound nice. After a lengthy ride, I find myself in a very familiar part of the city. It does take me long to find my way. I eventually find myself in front of a relatively small cafe. The same cafe Natsuki works at. I peer through the window and, sure enough, I spot the pink-haired gremlin. Quickly taking my earphones out, I head inside. Upon entering, I start walking over to the table where Natsuki sat. Once I get close enough, I tap her on the shoulder. Morning, Pinky. Ah! Damn it, Jasmine, you startled me! Natsuki mumbles numerous obscenities under her breath as an audible chuckle emerges from behind the counter. I look towards the source of the laughter and, to no surprise, it's Asuka. I give them a quick wave and they wave back, still clearly holding in most of their laughter. As I take a seat, Natsuki still grumbles. Sorry for scaring you, Nat. Oh, you better be! Natsuki pouts and scowls at me. She stares at me for a little bit until I end up pulling some stupid face. At that point, she just bursts into laughter. It doesn't take long for me to start laughing too. How have you been? doing, you big dummy? I've been pretty decent. How about you? I've been doing great. Definitely better without uni stressing me out. Natsuki dropped out of university a month or two after I started attending. Not only from when I saw her when I wasn't there, but also from my time attending, it all seemed to be dragging her down emotionally. But it does feel a little odd not having my stepsister there with me and Sayori. I'm glad she's doing better. Out of the blue, Natsuki's eyes then light up. I look behind me and spot Asuka walking to our table with 2 coffee cups in hand. They set their drinks on the table. Cheers, hot stuff! Asuka visibly blushes as a result of Natsuki's compliment, smiling before they walk off. Wait, did you order these before I came here? Nah, they're in the house. Oh, damn. Thanks, Nat. I give her a cheerful smile. No need to thank me, dummy. As Natsuki and I catch up, more customers come and go. After some time, though, yet another customer arrives and walks past. My eyes catch an all too familiar shade of lavender. And judging by the gleeful look on Natsuki's face, she's seen it too. We wait for a bit as we then hear a familiar gentle voice looking back as we do. After a couple of seconds, the lady turns around. And before she can notice us, hey, Yuri! Yuri holds her hands against her chest as she collects herself. Oh, she needed glasses. First time I've seen Yuri in months, and Natsuki almost gives her a heart attack. I have a quick look around to see if anyone else overheard Yuri's yelp. A few heads had turned to look at Yuri, but they look away soon after. Yuri eventually takes a seat next to Natsuki. Good morning, you two. Good. Morning! Morning, Yuri. Been a while, hasn't it? It has been, yes. How have you been since I last saw you? I've been doing good. I've been slipping up a lot less than I used to. She's been keeping me company a lot of the time too. Rio too whenever he pops over. How about you, Yuri? It's been a busy couple of months to say the least. I've been in a hurry to finish off all my assignments, and I got my final one in this morning. So I decided I'd treat myself a little. Treat yourself? You're a regular here. Natsuki then returns her focus to me. Oh, you should have heard some of the stories that she's told me. She turns that back to Yuri. Like those boys from last semester. Oh lord, huh? So you ended up attending a different university than myself and the others. I am a little curious. What about them? Well, they were saying some interesting things about me. Granted, it wasn't anything insulting or anything, but objectifying? Yuri starts nervously fiddling with her hair. Have you ever heard of Freud's Oedipus complex at all? My mind goes blank. I can't recall hearing about anything like that. They were calling her Mommy, Jasmine. Ah. Well, honestly, I would consider that insulting. I'm not here to king shame, but you better ask for consent, and Yuri doesn't look like she did. Natsuki's blunt explanation turns Yuri's face blood red and makes my eyes widen. Well, certainly didn't expect to hear that this morning. Surely there was a better way of phrasing that. Natsuki lets out a short yet exceedingly cheeky giggle as Yuri attempts to collect herself for the second time today. Yuri eventually exhales. To be honest, it did make for some halfway decent anecdotal evidence for one of my essays. So at least there was an upside to all of that. As the early embarrassment starts to fade, Asuka comes to drop off Yuri's tea. Them and Natsuki exchanging smiles as they go back behind the counter. After Yuri takes a small sip of her drink, she looks over to me with a tinge of curiosity to her gaze. I slightly cock my head to the right. You okay there, Yuri? I am, yes. It's just... Are you okay, Jasmine? Like, I know what day it is. I I bite the inside of my lip and close my eyes for a moment. I then nod to myself and look back towards Yuri. I could be better, but I'm okay. It's still crazy to think it's been 2 years already. Like, that's just... Christ, I just don't know how to explain it. Yuri looks off to the side with her downcast look in her gaze. I didn't mean to bring the mood down. No, Yuri, it's okay. Monika may no longer be here with us physically, but there's something that Sayori reminded me of this morning. It was something I said a while ago. It's not like Monika stopped existing. She's still in our hearts. And personally speaking, I think she'd be thrilled that her 4 closest friends are still close. The 2 girls smile sweetly. I think so too. I returned Yuri's smile. I really wish Sayori wasn't busy this morning. Should have loved to catch up with Nat and Yuri. More time passes. Me, Natsuki and Yuri end up exchanging summer stories of our post-high school lives, a couple stories from home, and even the odd memory or two about Monika. Eventually, though, I decide it's time that I get going. I say my goodbyes to both Natsuki and Yuri and then set off. In immediate retrospect, it probably would have been better to at least ask them if they wanted to accompany me, but I've got a lot of thinking to do before I get to Monika. Where do I begin? One taxi ride, and who knows how many minutes of walking later, I found myself at the cemetery. This is an odd-looking cemetery, I just realized. At least I've never seen a cemetery that looks like this. Maybe some of the, like, the only cemetery I've somewhat seen like this is an abandoned one. Like, all the other cemeteries I know look very different. Maybe it's Japanese. I don't know what Japanese cemeteries look like or something. Maybe it's that. I start walking through the fields of similar-looking graves. As I start walking through the fields of similar-looking graves, I realize I've not been here since February. February 14th, to be exact. One of the many days I wish Monika was here for. I sigh to myself. Oh, Monika, I wish you were still here. I briefly reconsider my visit, but I toss that doubt asunder almost as soon as it creeps up. I need to do this. Deep breaths, Jasmine, deep breaths. I follow my own advice for a few cycles before proceeding to my destination. After another few minutes, Monika's grave comes into view. As it does, so does Harume. Oh, hello, Jasmine. She smiles towards me. I sheepishly wave back before replying. Hi. It's been a while. Here today, if I'm not mistaken. I nod. Of course, we've been sporadically keeping in touch over the previous year, but this is the first time I've seen her in person since the first anniversary since Monika's passing. How have things been since we last spoke? Well, it's been stressful to say the least. I mean, with the divorce and everything going on, it's hard, Jasmine. She sighs heavily. The last time we spoke, she mentioned she was planning on divorcing from Daisuke. If you don't mind me asking, how'd he take the news? She visibly shudders at the thought. I'd rather not talk about it. Sorry. Yeah, brilliant idea, Jasmine. A sudden smile then returns to Harumi's face as she rests a hand on my shoulder. If it helps you put your mind at ease, I'm staying at my sister's place for the time being. So I'm in a safer place than I was. I'm really happy to hear that, Harumi. I'm certain that Monika would be happy too. She would be. Harumi smiled and faltered slightly as she looks back to Monika's resting place. I turn to match her gaze and look down towards the stone. We just stay there silently for some time. The coming breeze brushes against the pair of us. I reach into my pocket and gently grip the piece of paper. Can I confide in you about something, Jasmine? She speaks to me softly, her eyes still locked on the stone in front of us. Of course you can. She sighs before collecting herself. I know this is probably gonna sound crazy, but sometimes I still hear her voice. And honestly, it does a lot to comfort me. My lips curl into a smile once more. I thought I was the only one. Harumi's arms dropped to her sides, her smile still resting on her face. Our eyes locked for what feels like a good few minutes. I experience the same thing, by the way. And sometimes it's obvious that it's just that the jammed voices of multiple people somehow come out to me that way sometimes. She then begins to sheepishly approach me. Harumi then opens her arms and gestures for me to come closer. I I do just that, and soon enough she gently takes me into her embrace. We stay like this for a decent amount of time. In reality, it's probably only a few minutes. But regardless, it means a lot to me. Eventually we release each other. I'm sorry to bring this up all of a sudden, but I've got to get going, Jasmine. But hey, maybe we'll see each other again soon. It would definitely be nice to meet up more often. Hell, it could even do a lot to fill in the gap that Monika's passing left in our hearts. I think I'd like that. I would too. After one last quick hug, we bid each other goodbye, and she walks off. Whatever she has to do, I just hope she's okay. Now finding myself on my own, I turn and look back down to Monika's stone. As I gaze at it, time seems to slow to a crawl, or at least that's how it feels. I take a deep breath. Hey Moni, it's me again. I know it's been a few months since we last spoke. Things have been a bit busy at uni. I pause momentarily to streamline my thoughts. Even though I've been here more than enough time, speaking to her like this never gets easier. Maybe it will do one day, who knows? Like, I've submitted my final assignment of the semester. Now it's just a way to find out if I'm moving on to the final year. I even got round to finishing that song we started for one of them. Personally speaking, I think it sounds pretty good. I just wish you were here to listen to it, though. I stop and sigh. Need to try lighten up my thoughts a bit. The girls are doing well for themselves. Sayori and Yuri are just wrapping up their final semesters. Natsuki's got a job with her partner. Hexa's even got a fella now. I'm really proud with how she's been how better she's doing. Again, I just wish you were here to see it all. You'd be proud of all three of them too, I reckon. I then stick my hand in my pocket and, after a slight moment of hesitation, I pull out a sheet of paper I brought with me. It's a little bit crumbled from the little journey it's had in my jacket pocket, but nothing too severe. I unfold the paper and silently read through it once or twice before looking back to Monika. I, also tried getting back into poetry recently. I found a folder with a whole bunch of my own poems in it. There were even some of the ones you wrote for me. I smiled to myself, my eyes flicking first to the sheet in my hand and then back to the engraved rock below. I read your poem. Like, I don't know if it's going to be any damn good. I suddenly got rusty after the literature club. God, I miss those clubroom days. I really do. Anyway, enough reminiscing. I need to get this over with. I bring the paper to my face and begin to read aloud to Monika. I know. You've been away for some time. I know. Months and months have dragged by, me spending most of my time drunk on woe. This I know. For days on end, I wished your fate wasn't so. Needlessly screaming to myself, pleading to know why you had to go. Desperation began to grow, began to fester like the wound it was, and my mind went places I never knew it could even go. This I know. Years have gone by without you. The time learning to go and coating the old wounds with scar tissue. If asked back then if I'd still be here, I'd just say I didn't know. With you in my heart, though, I know I can. I know I can. I know can. Makes sense. I read each line clearly with a degree of confidence I've not experienced for a while. Deep down, I know it'd be better after a ride or three, but I'm just glad I got something down. I'll sheet back up and return it to my pocket before looking back to Monika. I hope you liked it wherever you are. As soon as those words left my mouth, my eyes started to water up. Despite that though, I'm not crying. I slowly approach the headstone, and when I get as close as I can, I rest my right hand upon it and look to the sky. As my eyes meet the vast space above me, I notice that the clouds have started to clear up. I breathe gently. For the first time in what feels like forever, my head is clear. I feel as if I can focus so much so that I swear I glimpse Monika herself in the sky. Was it mirage? Perhaps. Whatever it was, it gives me a semblance of peace. Wherever she is, I know she's watching over me. I know that the time we shared together wasn't anywhere close to how long we wanted it to last. But despite that, I'm glad she chose to spend that time with me. And in that time, I learned a lot from her. And, at least to me, I think I've become a somewhat better person. It's just cliche to say that. Whether or not it's seen as such, I don't exactly care. Monika, I love you. And I still love you. And for all I know, that love will remain years from now. I don't know when I'll see you again. However long it takes, I'll be here waiting patiently for my time. Because in spite of the lengthy wait that awaits me, I know you're waiting somewhere out there. Somewhere out there, on the other end of the horizon. I've waited for the horizon to return. Storm blazed. I followed them somewhere, I think. From credit.txt. From after school demo. Some of these names are hard to read on the clouds. Extra special thanks to you, the player. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for playing Doki Doki Within. Sayori front? To you, the player. First of all, I'd like to apologize for the last few hours of the mod. I know this is definitely far from the way plenty of you thought the story would end, especially if, like me, Monika's your favorite girl. Trust me, even during the early stages, a lot of the stuff at the end of Act 2 and the start of Act 3 was very tough to write. I originally started writing within around June 2012 2021. Originally, my plan was to write it as a straightforward fanfic, since writing is something I am kind of passionate about, regardless of whether it's actually good. After DDLC Plus rekindled my love for DDLC and its characters, hence why I was writing this in the first place, I wanted to try turn my story into a mod like those I fell in love with, both back during my initial hyperfixation during 2018 and 19, and more recently. Granted, my only experience of modding before was making my own Doom WODs and a couple of Doom community projects, Project Unity and RAMP, RAMP. Switching from the realms of demonic slaughter to a world home to our favorite literature club was always going to be a bit daunting, but thankfully the community was always there to provide support that actually helped me better understand the engine. Focusing on Within's writing, I wrote the mod wanting to take readers on a roller coaster. A tired expression, I know. Despite this, I also wanted to add my own personal flair to the characters. I took a lot of influence from parts of myself, my friends, and other people I know, whether the experiences I took inspiration were positive or negative didn't really matter. I just hope I was able to do the main 4 or 5 if you count MC justice in spite of all the Britishisms. I'll talk about that in a bit. I was also going into this knowing that there was going to be moments in the story that would get to people either on an emotional level or in a way that would net me a couple of angry DMs, but I'd rather take that risk than just play it safe. I already gave a bunch of special things in the credits, but I want to take a moment to explain them. Room 4? Your playthrough of the demo probably got word of the mod out there better than I ever could. Kangamonga and Zero, when your playthroughs came out, I was both surprised and a little anxious, to put it lightly. Holly, aside from Zero's, your time with the mod got me worried whether or not the poor thing was going to be ripped apart like it was in the Hellraiser movie, whereas aside, the feedback from both the Let's Plays and comment sections proved helpful in shaping the mod into what it is today. To the talented artists that either created new art for Within, I can't thank you enough for giving life to the mod. Stormprox, Sark, I know this name also somewhere. I think I followed them also. I think I follow them all on. I think I follow Stormblazed on Twitter. I will call it Twitter. And I think maybe oh god, I can't say them too. Krazautis, Ritam SFM, and Yaya sees all. If it wasn't for you, Within would be an entirely different mod. I'd like to also thank both Mr. Zera Demand for introducing me to Krazauts and Soviet Spartan for giving his permission to use Monika's outfit from our time. Oh, that's also something I wanted to look into. I would also like to thank both Thomas Bongelder and Guy Manuel de Cristo, otherwise known as Daft Punk. As mentioned before, I started writing Within around June 2021. This was only a few months after Daft Punk split in February, so me being me, I was listening to the music a lot. So if you were curious as to why this soundtrack features them a lot, there's part of your answer, aside from me just really liking Daft Punk as is. I'd also love to thank Amara, Sakura Maiden, my family, and my fiance Jade. Amara gave the okay for me to use her track Ethereal Beauty in the mod, but in general my family and fiance have been really supportive of me during Within's production, and have been there for me on my off days. I think that Within would have taken even longer to finish if it wasn't for them. Lastly, there's one more person I'd love to mention. That would be you, the person playing this mod. I want to thank you for coming on this journey with me. It's been a wild ride, full of twists and turns, some expected and some you didn't expect. In the end, I just hope the wait was worth it to some degree. From the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being a part of this journey. I've got a few ideas for mods I want to do post within. There's a Yuri focused romance mod. Would be interested. My own personal take on the after Sayori concept. I have been looking for mods like hell after these, and I couldn't find a lot that really seemed interesting. Like I've seen consequences, I've seen after Sayori, but after checking in on what some of them were about, and after one of my friends played after Sayori and said it wasn't all that good, and given the subject matter and myself, I didn't want to rip into it, so I don't think I'll be playing that. I have like 2 mods right now that I would plan on playing, and I was looking into like Echo of Tomorrow, I think, that I've seen like also with Afro Zero's playthrough. It was suggested to me. I didn't exactly see what it was entirely about, but from what I saw, it really looked interesting. But outside of the download link in the description, I couldn't find anywhere where it's like downloadable, and I don't want to play the mod if the creator maybe took it down because they weren't proud of it. I've also been worried about that because of Outcast. So I would be interested to see a mod like that as well. Hell, there's even the idea of mashing up DDLC and Scream. I've not decided where I want to go next, but I hope you'll be there to join me again. Especially for the After Sayori mod, I would be up for that. And also for the Yuri focused one maybe, because I'm currently in like a Yuri mode, and Fallen Angel kind of didn't satisfy me with that completely. So I feel like I will go play a few mods soon that that are like surrounded more about around Yuri, and maybe when I pick up the romance mod for it, maybe I'll start with Yuri there once too. But I would be interested in those things, yeah. All the best, Callum Best Pond 3 Backshaw. And I'll also give like the credits.txt file right here. So okay then, I hope you're ready for me to give some compliments to the mod, but also there are some things where I have problems with, but for that, let's see. Yep. Let's return to this screen. So we have a bit of piano music in the background. So, character-wise, when we're talking about canons of characters, I'll say characters here. Or should I go into the story first? I'll go into the story first, because they already have my thoughts sorted. I will give it 6 points. I was debating whether between 7 or 6. I enjoyed it a little more than I did. Like, the ending of this mod and Fallen Angel were around the same amount of good. I felt like this was a little better, that's why I was contemplating towards the 7. Because there were parts of me that enjoyed this better. But I just felt like I have to... Should I give 7? I'll go through all of my points at first. I didn't mind the relationship between the MC and Monika. It was a bit cheesy. And I felt like the other characters... Like, after 2 months, they should have grown a bit enough used to not crack jokes about it every 10 minutes. I feel like they still could have done a bit more with the character. A bit more bonding moments that felt more that felt more natural, I guess you could put it. Because it felt a little bit like there was not really any real development in the relationship, nor in Monika, and I think that was one of my other biggest criteria. I kind of felt like there wasn't really any development towards her spiral to mental health problems. Another thing that I was struggling with also towards the end was the way we saw the other characters felt like they were existing merely for DMC, like they are. It felt like a lot was surrounding their relationship, but the relationship between DMC and Monika, and it was a bit easy at the ending there when they like added a few little things, but it still felt like their lives kind of revolved a bit too much around this relationship and around these two. And there's something that adds into that, but I'll go into that in the character section. One of my biggest concerns was something I feel was just missed potential, or rather, I felt like it had options to tackle topics that it ended up not tackling. And it took a lot from like Exit Music and Fallen Angel. There'll be a bit of spoilers here for that. Because especially I felt like the ending was actually a bit better written than Fallen Angel, simply because it was a bit longer and allowed me a bit more time to process these things. And the others were just small scenes. I didn't like everything about the ending, but I felt like it was quite good. But I feel like it had just taken a lot of inspiration from the Fallen Angel mod. Like, even with the mirror, there are other ways to present a character having this internal struggle that isn't just mirrors. And the way it was talking was almost in specific times very similar to what happened in Fallen Angel, to the point where I felt it was, of course it was probably inspiration, and maybe it showed just their passion also for the mod, but I felt it was too similar and less its own thing rather than, you know, its own thing. It was and also the scene with Monika, I felt like Fallen Angel is a bit better because we can't fully pinpoint in Fallen Angel, because Yuri there doesn't tell us about, oh, this and this happened while you were gone, even though we didn't see what happened. In this one we even clearly know that what this vision of Monika said is truthfully true, and I feel like like I said, I prefer more the idea of oh, what was it called? It being open to interpretation, whether or not that's like an actual spirit, or just the memories coming, like the embodiment of Monika due to the memories they shared. When you remember like what memories you shared with them, maybe you realize that these people would not want you to all go like the same route. And I feel like it can work, and like that's what I actually interpreted with Yuri. It's not an actual spirit, but it's just the acknowledgement that they wouldn't want that due to all of the moments they shared, and it's like in a physical appearance. But generally that part, even the fact that it happened after the wrist, after an injury done to the wrist, was like very much the same, and I feel like it left it a bit uninspired. Not uninspired, but uncreative actually. Uninspired, it was very inspired by Fallen Angel there. Same goes for Monika's father. Like, there's something I brought up, I think, fairly early on. I wish the mod would have just tackled what we see of Monika in the side stories, where it's like, that's the universe where it's taking place in. Because there's like her perfectionism and all of that, right? And you can make a story of that. I wish it would have been tackled more in the side stories, because it felt like Monika, a lot of what Monika felt internally about towards herself with this perfection. That it wasn't just affecting others, but like herself especially. She talked about it to herself more than the others. And I feel like it would have been cool in this mod to tackle like this perfectionism that she like has. But instead, to make sure that Monika ends up taking her own life, they like added this weird father figure. And I feel like I feel like that doesn't suit Monika all that well. I felt like it would have been better if it was completely morally grey. I feel like that would have also worked for Fallen Angel. It was also my gripe there, that an antagonist was not necessary. There might have been some stupid kids, but actually it'd be rather being the MC trying to help her, but just end up harming her unintentionally in some way. And Yuri being heartbroken because of that would have worked just fine without Monika as an antagonist. And here too, I feel like the father was an unnecessary villain in the story. Like, even if you don't do it with the MC, just there are so many people who don't grow up in very abusive households or with severe bullying, and they still have thoughts about taking their own lives because they're not succeeding in school. They have no idea if they have a future for themselves. There's so many who struggle with bad thoughts just because they're not good at school. Just because they feel this pressure without there being any major pressure from what's called major pressure, but just without any extremely abusive parent. The father felt completely unnecessary to her story. I feel like he should have just been a maybe pressuring parent, but a still caring parent. Because that's what I talked about earlier. I don't mind the idea of parents being pressuring, but I feel like it would be more morally grey if they don't even notice that they're putting this much pressure on Monika to be perfect to a point where it might lead to her, whenever something goes wrong, immediately for her to jump to conclusions that she doesn't have any future. And I feel like it would have worked better without the father, actually. It could have been its own unique thing to have something that isn't immediately impacted by others. Fallen Angel could have been the same, but I now chose to have Monika as his villain, and it's just now the way it is. And the exit music has Natsuki's father as the villain, the story, who leads to the demise. Having it morally grey could have already made it feel more of an original idea. And I get it was already very scared of being unapologetically cheesy. So I get that maybe they would have been afraid of people saying Monika had no reason to do that, because I remember once on Twitter I actually saw a tweet about Within, this mod, where it said Monika had no reason to do that at the end there. And if they're and I can see that there was maybe the worry of that people won't take it seriously that that people do in fact take their lives because of things like these. Because from an outside perspective, it might not seem like much, but I feel like if you wrote it good, you could have still had the story and made at least a good amount of people understand why Monika ended up doing what she did. And with that, I get that it's scary to try and do it. But I feel like it would have been better than the father, because one of my major gripes with this mod stems from the fact that it feels quite unoriginal with some of the ideas. It's literally just Natsuki's father just toned down a little bit so that it's still bearable to like live with him to a certain degree. And the ending is just fallen angel with a bit more content, which I liked, but it was still very much clearly taken from Fallen Angel and just not changed enough for me personally, for me not to draw direct parallels to it, especially with this vision that showed like Monika on the roof. So one of my main gripes with the story is just the missed potential it somewhat had to tell its own original story that it didn't take. I don't know why they went the father route. Maybe they just thought it makes sense for perfectionists, even though people can be perfectionistic without the reason. They said they included personal experiences. Maybe there is genuinely something from that in there. Although given the fact that they mentioned the family, maybe not. But it just failed at being its original thing. An exit for music for Monika is probably possible to make interesting, but it needs something that changes it from Fallen Angel and exit music. And this was just very close to it and made it feel very unoriginal. And that, I think, is not that good. That's why I wanted to give it a 6 at first. The ending really touched me because it reminded me of other things again. So that's why I'm somewhat in between 7 and 6. I know it's definitely not an 8. I'm currently trying to look at the other story I gave 7 points for this story for, which was Fallen Angel. And I must say, I liked the topic of mental health in Fallen Angel less. I didn't like the way it was handled and the way it was not used as the antagonistic force, but they chose Monika instead. But I liked the way that they were quite original. Monika might have been the villain, but it was already a bit of a change compared to the father. It wasn't completely original yet, but it was something else. This opportunity to make it like Grey here was like very big, and it honestly made me really sad. I'll just try to go with my heart. Give me a second. I have a lot of mods currently on 7.5 points in what I'm going out of 10. It's definitely not those mods. So you know what? I'll check first how I rate the characters, the canons to the characters. Because I don't want to give it something that I don't feel like it deserves because it was simply not that original. I feel like a 7 would work again. Or 6.5 like Fallen Angel. I'm currently thinking of the canoness. It felt very off to me how they made Sayori's depression so minor in this mod. It wasn't noticeable during the part where she was like grieving at all. I felt like a bit of a change of grieving in each and every one of them would have been nice, but instead it was just, he is just depressed and they're trying to stay positive, even though I feel like it would hit them also very deeply. It's just we never hardly got to see it, which was my gripe with the story. Part of the story portion. I felt like Natsuki was out of character. The cussing at some point and the way it was then referred to as something typical that Natsuki does, when Natsuki only cusses in Act 2 and not much more than Yuri either in Act 2. It felt a bit even annoying, I must say. I liked quite a portion of Natsuki's writing here, but that's something that annoyed me quite a bit. The way it was like, it's just typical Natsuki. No, it's literally aggressiveness of father amplified Natsuki, and you literally toned the father down. So that doesn't really make sense. Because side story in Act 1 Natsuki doesn't really cuss aside from like things like dummy. And you're stupid. Her father's also a gripe I have. Yes, it's not as bad as it is in Act 2. It's not... yeah, I just said it, it's not as bad as in Act 2, but it is still a strained relationship. I don't think it's unsalvageable necessarily. Since he isn't like physically or sexually abusive like he might be in Act 2, and he doesn't starve her, and she isn't really that hungry in Act 1 and in the side stories, to a point where she, you know, fully struggles with food. It's clear that he's probably just, by the sound of it, very controlling. The relationship is strained. It probably can be salvaged if people talk to him. It's like with what I could imagine with Monika's parents. If they maybe were called out on the fact that they're putting too much pressure on the daughter, maybe they realize it. If maybe Natsuki's father was called out properly on that he's just controlling and it's damaging his daughter's mental health, then maybe he would notice it and in fact try to change. But the relationship is still strained in both the side stories and Act 1. Yes, even in the side stories, she might only bring up her father a little bit when she brings up that she has to stand up to him and prove to herself that she's stronger than him, because she feels like he's constantly probably trying to overpower her in some way or form. Shape or form. Even if he doesn't mean to, he's directly causing Natsuki to be this aggressive in the first place. Monika in Act 3 also brings up Natsuki's relationship with her father and points out that she's glad she was able to provide some comfort for Natsuki in the club, without ever mentioning that she amplified it. So that let me assume that even in Act 1, when Natsuki actually felt comfortable in the club, unlike in Act 2, where it was not really that comfortable there, she never really had a good relationship with her father. He might not be irredeemable, but the relationship is strained, and the fact that they didn't show it here at all honestly bothers me. They don't have to make him the worst piece of shit, but they do need to show that there is some strain in the relationship. They didn't do it here. They never mentioned that in the past, which are like between the side stories and where this mod takes place, they managed to already rekindle their relationship. They didn't point that out, and so I don't feel like they thought about it that way. So due to that, I would say that there has to be some points taken away from her, especially since what correlates with each other, her father being more aggressive and her cussing more. Her father is less aggressive than he would probably be in Act 1, or like in the side stories, or at least the relationship is even more better than there. And for some reason she cusses more. I'm sorry, but I need to. I can't. I don't like that. It bothers me. With Monika, I felt like there was simply the lack of development, which ticks me off of whether or not I could... Like, the idea that she has this aggressive father is now part of the story point about the fact that it's unoriginal. But like with Natsuki, how it's now the exit music and the exit music redux, how her father is aggressive even though we're not in Act 2. Like to this amount aggressive. I won't go completely say, oh my god, how could you, because it was just like the idea for the mod, I suppose. Even though I feel like another approach would have been better, it's now the idea for the mod. But I still do feel like with the lack of development, there needs to be some repercussions for this as well. It also kind of bothers me how I wanted to say something. How Sayori's... We never really noticed Sayori dealing with depression anymore. Like, to no degree. Never when she grieves, never when she talks before the others. We notice a little bit that she's like, oh, how could I know? When she's like comforting... When she's comforting Monika, she's like, how could I have not noticed? But it still feels like it has been immensely toned down to a degree that I feel like is starting to edge on as like, it's starting to become dismissive of Sayori's depression. And Natsuki's father is no longer aggressive. But guess what Monika all of a sudden got? An aggressive father and the depression. And it kind of bothered me because it somewhat felt like they were toning down the problems of the other girls and then giving them to Monika so that Monika looks more troubled in comparison to them, like she's suffering more than them. And I feel like that's also a bad message to send, because one of the things that bothered me in the side stories was that it was never called out that while perfectionism is not as bad as depression, it's still a valid issue to have. And instead of focusing on the fact that these girls have these problems, they're completely valid, they are bad. But if Monika doesn't take care of her perfectionism, it can still lead to symptoms of like depression. It can still lead to her harming herself. Because it's still an issue that she's immensely struggling with. It's once again since like this message just that it said that the perfectionism wasn't bad enough by itself to write a story on and make a character sympathetic in that sense. Yuri was perfectly fine, and I was also fine with the interpretation of the MC. Like the MC they created there. I know you said you hoped you did justice. I feel like it was okay. I feel like if we take quite a bit away from Natsuki and a bit from Sayori and Monika, then we're 7 or 8. Although I must say, out of all of the mods I've played, I'm gravitating towards 8, I think. I just feel like Monika was like, she started in the main game. She also had like the suicidal ideation, but she didn't want to give up immediately, so I feel like there was a problem there with, like, if they wanted to build up to her suicide, it would have been more necessary to do proper development there. I don't mind the idea of weird gossip girls, because she is quite popular, and her having sex and getting bitten there doesn't make sense, although... And people gossip about that makes sense, so... But I still feel like there was a lack of development. Generally, I don't mind her character, like with the bit of jealousy there as well. I felt like that was a good amount of jealousy to be realistic even in the side stories, so... Yeah, I'm leaving it at 8. And with that, I'll leave the story at 6, especially now where I just noticed really how badly, like, Monika's lack of proper development it felt like for me. I felt like there would have needed to be more development to this scene, especially since we saw in the main game how persistent she can be, and I actually don't want to die yet. Let me try to fuck around in the coding and see if I can do anything to try to connect with something real, because I want to live. At least until the end. And I felt like to properly convey that this one is already giving up, there would have been more development necessary. So with that, it's settled on 6 points. I am actually more likely to replay it than Fallen Angel, despite the story points, because I feel like without the unoriginality, I would give it like the exact same amount. Just that and so it would be around like also 7 as Fallen Angel, because the writing problems are still there with like Monika's development and like the... Actually, it would probably already be much further up to generally, because aside from like, I feel like it would be 8 or 9, because my problem rather was like the relationships, the relationship lacked a few bonding moments that I felt were missing, and maybe with the girls, and also like the character development from Monika, the proper. But it's just the way character stories were changed a little bit, or like traits that these characters had, or struggles rather, to make Monika's worse, and just the way it was fairly not that original to me, because of the massive inspiration it's taken from the others. I will put it on a 6. That keeps it at 7 points, which outside of the Exit Music Redux is the highest of the Exit Music-ish mods. Because there were like a few sweet moments there. And of course, a part of me probably also just feels this way because, well, by now I have characters of my books and stuff that I ship with the other characters as well, but back then the first character I shipped with anyone, and my favorite character is Monika, and of course due to that I feel like my perception of the story is simply more prone to be better simply because I got to spend time with Monika. But so I can understand when other people say they prefer the others more. I just feel like, to me personally, kind of it wouldn't be as low of a rating if it was a bit more original, simply. And if it was more original, it also would take quite a bit away from it, removing the struggles of the other characters. I know the creator put a lot of effort into it, and I don't mean to discredit that. Although I do wish the specific, sometimes you would have needed to recheck the writing, because some of these repeating words, it was a bit strong sometimes. I'm really not that good at reading aloud. Like if I play it again on my free time, I would be a bit better at it, but it sometimes was a bit throwing me off. I know they put a lot of effort into this. I don't think it's a bad mod. Like, I always tend to say it. A mod is... I always tend to say it. Like, when it comes to like points 1, 2, 3, it's not that good. 4 is meh. It's not really exactly my thing, really. 5 is then it's okay. I also tend to maybe give like around 4 points for running in general. Then 6 and 7 started to... I kinda like it. No, not really, given the fact that none of the mods have thus far progressed past 7.5, I'm pretty sure, and I still like the mods I've played. So I guess 6 is I kinda like it, 7, 8 is I like it, and 9 and 10 is then I love it. There you go. Because I do like the mods that I've played. There were sometimes flaws with it, and sometimes there were really parts that like kind of break the camel's back for me. With Fallen Angel, it was the characterization of Monika and the mental health talkings. In Exit Music, it was the characterization, which tended to completely drag me out of specific moments. And here it was quite unoriginal. 8 points for canon characteredness. Also has the possibility to go down to 7, but I'll give it an 8 here. Because simply when I first started the mod, I was like flashed by, wow, the characters are so well written. So just for this flash I had in that moment, I will give it an 8. Also, and for the story-wise, it's a 6. And that together equals out to 14 points, which is exactly 7 points in total. 7 out of 10. So I like it, I guess. The message, which is exactly the same as in Fallen Angel, something I can certainly agree with, but I don't know where I was going with it. I actually just wanted to say was a proper goodbye. I stammered towards the end here because I've already sort of collected my thoughts before playing it, because before this portion I had already a few thoughts. They were already like, the story is 6 points thus far. I was wondering if this last portion of the grieving process was going to save anything. I was starting to tend to 7 points, but I'll leave it at 6. It's like, story-wise, I don't mind too much, but writing-wise and creativity-wise, it's just... There were a few flaws, it wasn't that original, and it kind of messed with my liking towards this mod. Still, I still am proud of the mod creator, and I do hope for future mods. I will check them out if they make any new ones, because I like the characterization, and maybe with something that isn't an Exit Music-esque mod, they maybe won't struggle as much to make a, if they just make an After Sayori type of mod, I feel like they'll do fine. Maybe they struggle with the Exit Music-ish part of it. If they do make a Yuri romance mod, that's hopefully not too inspired by Fallen Angel, or an After Sayori mod, then I would gladly check it out. And yeah, that's, I feel like, all I wanted to say. Anyway, still, I applaud the mod creator for taking time to make their own mod. And I feel like for the first mod it works. I feel like it had a lot of missed potential, like I said, but that doesn't mean it's completely a bad mod. Anyway, I hope you all have a nice night, day, evening, or morning. And let's all keep fighting, at least for those who are watching from afar.